afternoon, everyone. I am Marie Widmer, owner of the Performance Pony Company and RodeoKids.com. And this afternoon, we're here in Deep River, Iowa at Widmer's Rock and Roll Arena, and I wanted to share with you a little bit about proper body position on a horse. I have a lot of kids and families come to clinics and lessons from all over the place, and there's a common issue that I see that I just want to shed some light on and try to support you all in making sure that we're using our bodies properly and just thinking about how our bodies are communicating with our horses, because they don't necessarily understand English, but they understand body language. So there's a lot that we can do to make sure that we're communicating effectively. So one of the biggest things that I like to focus on is being in an athletic position. So I want to be, when I sit on my horse, I want to be in a situation where I can keep my balance no matter what. If something comes, if my horse jumps, if he spooks, my feet and my body is positioned so that I can quickly react and recenter no matter what happens. Another thing that kind of a myth that I want to debunk a little bit or just explain further is heels down. I hear that a lot, and there's an extent to that where there are some people, I believe that this came because what happens is when people are nervous and they've never ridden before, they clench with their thighs, with their legs rather than, and then that brings their heels up. So I think heels down is to try to keep people centered. But some people take that to an extent where their toes come up. And you know, if that's something that you've been doing, I want you to get out here in this dirt or anywhere. You can do it on concrete and put your heels down and your toes up and try to walk and see if you're balanced. Same thing with balancing too much on your toes. There's some people who stand up too much in their stirrups and then they're going to get thrown forward all the time. So just take that time to go out there, walk on the dirt, walk with your heels down, walk with your toes up. See where you're balanced and what your body feels like when you're balanced. And that's the same thing that we're looking for when we get up on these horses and when we're in our saddles. A good saddle makes a huge difference, you know, especially there's a lot of saddles on the market that are great for starting out. You know, they're safe, they're heavily made, they're gonna last you a long time. But as your kids and as you continue to get better and grow and mature with your sport and add speed and add finesse, your saddle can make or break your ability to keep your balance and ride effectively and communicate with your horse. So we really want to look at, you know, if you're having a hard time keeping your balance, really look at if you are staying square with that horse or how that's working or how your saddle is affecting your ability to stay in the proper position. So before we even get on, I also want to talk about how our bodies mimic the horses and the horses mimics ours. So if we're riding and we're up here all the time and we're up over them and maybe balancing on the reins, we don't have any control of their hind end, just like we don't have any control of ours. Same thing if we're back here. If we're riding back here all the time and we're getting them out in front of us, we don't have control of their front end. They get loosey-goosey and they can do whatever they want. So we want to get back to that centered balance where our spine matches up with theirs, where our body mimics theirs and their body mimics ours. So the moves that we make when we're making a circle, you know, you can think about how if you walk around in a circle like that, what part of your body, your right leg reaches forward just like theirs. You know, we talk about leads a lot. So what are your hips doing? Your hips are leading, your right leg comes up, your left leg comes around. So that's the same thing that our horses do. We don't go like this when we turn to the right, when we're walking naturally. So we don't want to do that on our horses either. You know, sometimes, I don't know what they call it, but you'll see people going around barrels or around poles and they'll be out here. I can't turn in a circle effectively that way on the ground, so I can't turn effectively in a circle on my horse either. Same thing going to the left, same thing backing up. When we back up, the motions that we make with our hips, picking up our legs, moving backwards, same thing that our horses do. So we can carry that over when we get on these horses and we're thinking about, man, they're not turning right or they're not backing up. Get off your horse and walk around in a circle and see, what does my body do? how do I back up? And then what am I doing on my horse? Am I throwing my weight back, or am I throwing my weight forward? Or for your kids, if your kids are having a lot of problems, start looking at how they're riding in the saddle. You can't fix this with a bit. You know, you can put as many bits in your horse's mouth as you want, but these problems have got to be fixed with your body first. A bit makes a difference, chiropractic, all the things, but if we're not balanced in the saddle, you're not going to be able to fix any of it. So we're going to get on here and just talk a little bit more. And this is the first ever Performance Pony Company saddle, so we're really excited about that. Little blocker here's a little goosey today. So when I'm in my saddle, I want my feet to be where I can stand up in my stirrups, I can move side to side, and I have total control of my body. My hands are out in front of me. There's never a time that we walk around, if we're just naturally walking on the ground, that I have my hands right here. We don't walk around like this as humans, so why would I want to walk around like that on my horse? If my horse mimics my body, I need to be out here and balanced, just like I would if I was walking around. So my hands, hopefully you guys can see this, when I am doing anything, and you'll see a lot of guys on who ride professionally and stuff, you know, if you're just walking around, you can keep your reins kind of loose, but our goal is to keep our horses between our legs and between our hands. So trying to keep a little bit of a wider base with our hands, you know, in line with our hips. And then when we ride our horses, we want to keep them square with us. So here when I'm turning, I'm just trying to stay square. If my horse starts to turn in too much or out too much, I'm not going to use my hands to fix it. I'm going to use my body, and I'm going to add a little bit of extra energy. I'm going to keep my hands right here, and I'm going to ride him into it. What we see a lot of is if a horse starts to, I say, waller around, then we try to fix it with our hands. If they start to overturn, we start to pull with our outside. We come up here and we pull with our outside rein, or we start to lean, or we come up here like this and our feet get behind us. But that's not going to solve the problem. What we want to do is get our balance. When our horses start coming out here or dropping into their circle with their shoulders, what's happening is that they're getting out of balance. They're not collected. So we got to support them with that. The biggest thing in my eyes about riding is keeping these hips up underneath of you. And your hips mimic your horse's pelvis. When you see a cool picture of a horse, when you see a really cool video of a horse stopping, they've got their hind end all the way up underneath of them, and they are just, we call it hunkering down here. They're hunkered down, their hips are up underneath of them, their shoulders are elevated. They're not leaning back like this, hollowed out. They've got their back rounded. And when you see those guys who are riding those horses, they're right here too. I mean, they're right here with them, making that same exact move. So depending on how much you're wanting to stop and what you're wanting to do in your turn, we got to use our hips just as much as theirs. So when we're riding, we want to engage our abs and roll our hips up underneath of us and get to where we can keep our toes underneath, and we've got this C shape in our back, so we have complete control of our bodies, and then our horses are going to start being more collected too. So when you're going into your turn and when you're going into your stops, try to make sure to do what we call hunker down. So I'm going to engage my abs, right here my abs. My hips are going to open up, just like this horse's pelvis has to come up underneath of him. We're just going to sit and open up, almost like someone called a hip thrust. Sit, open up, keep our hands forward. If we come back here, all of a sudden I'm hollowed out. My horse can't stop very well like that. They're probably going to stop on their front end. We're going to restrict their ability for them to stop correctly. Their hips have to come up underneath of them, and then they have to elevate a little. If I'm putting weight up here on them, they can't elevate like they need to because I'm throwing them off balance. So as you're riding, that's just something to really think about, is your hunker down position. Hunkering down. Hands wide, eyes forward, hips open, and abs engaged right here. When we do it in a turn, our hunker down. We put whatever direction we're going. That rein is on the hand, or hand is on the rein, other hand on the saddle horn. Or even if you're not putting your other hand on the saddle horn, it's just right here. Nice and hunkered down. My abs are engaged, my ribs are engaged, just like I want my horses to be. I'm looking where I'm going, looking ahead. My shoulders are square like I want my horses to be. My hips are up underneath of me because I want his leg reaching up underneath of him. I'm leading with my left hip. I'm not trying to be square on this horse right now. I'm not trying to be square straight across like this because that's not going to work. This doesn't work very well because this tells my horse to go straight. I got to be square with this turn. Move around it, move around it. Maybe a little bit of inside leg. Now if he starts to get lazy in this turn, I gotta ask him to move forward with my body. I squeeze him up. I want him to move up out from underneath of me, so I'm gonna move him up. I can't fix it by coming up here. As soon as I come up here, he's gonna do what he just did. He's gonna stop. So if your kids are having problems with any of that kind of stuff, look at their body position first. Are they hunkered down in their turn? Are they looking like Lisa Lockhart, Sherry Servey? Are they looking like those reiners when they're trying to stop, or like Trevor Brazil when they go to get off? You know, just look at those pictures and compare the last rodeo that you went to and one of their pictures on the internet and see what's our body position look like. So that's one of the first and foremost fixes and things to look at when we start having issues. What's our body position? How are we communicating? What are our hips doing? What are our abs doing? Are we balanced? And if we're struggling and we can't figure it out, if I were to get off on the ground, what would my body parts be doing? How would they turn? Now how can I get on my horse and do that? So there's just things to think about, and yeah, if you have any other questions, please let us know. We're going to keep doing some of these videos and trying to get you guys some support and just the fundamentals of horsemanship that are often overlooked. Have a great day and God bless.